Hey everybody, it's time for another good word from God's Word. I'm not in my normal place, so I couldn't do my normal setup here, but I did want to bring my devotion to you today. What we're looking at is Deuteronomy Chapter 3. If you've been reading through the Bible with us a chapter a day, we finally made it to Deuteronomy. And outside of Genesis, this is probably my favorite one. Deuteronomy, if you haven't heard already, Deuteronomy is it's kind of like a retelling of everything that's happened since Exodus. We get Exodus, which tells the story of the Israelites getting out of Egypt and how they traveled through the wilderness and even why they got stuck there for 40 years. And then we got Leviticus, which is the whole law, and then Numbers, which tells more of the story of them in the wilderness, of what happened when they made it to the promised land and they decided not to go in. And like, okay, now this is about the 40 years hanging out inside them. And so now Deuteronomy happens. This is 40 years after after this. It's now time for them to go into the promised land. Moses has been with them since the beginning, walking them all the way through, and this is his final sermon. This is his final lesson to the Israelites before he goes off and ultimately dies. So what Moses is doing in Deuteronomy chapter 3, especially at the beginning, is he's telling the Israelites, here's where we came from. And if you read with me in Numbers chapter 23 last week, we talked about how the Gadites, the Reubenites, and the half tribe of Manasseh all got this one section of on the right side of on the right side of the Jordan River, and that he's reiterating that again because he's reminding them, hey, this is why I chose to do what I did. And then at the end, Moses pleads with God one more time to please allow him to go into the promised land. And if you don't remember exactly what happened, is that they were at a rock and all the Israelites were crying out, give us water, we're going to die of thirst. And what Moses was supposed to do was speak to the rock and water would come out. But Moses got angry and hit the rock and the water comes out. So God still answered their prayer, but Moses decided to do it his own way. He did it in his own anger. And so his punishment for that God gave him was that you're not going to get to go to the promised land. And so at the end of Numbers 23, we find Moses investing and say God actually telling Moses, you need to put Joshua in charge. Joshua is the one who's going to take everyone into the promised land. And so this got me thinking about investing in the next generation. I'm not just talking about like working in kids and youth ministry. I'm talking about like from a leadership standpoint, no matter where you are or where you serve, there's always someone who is younger than you. There's someone who has less experience than you. It may even be your children. And what we need to do is we need to consistently invest in their lives, teach them what we've learned, because we've already been down the road. That I like what I heard recently about experience is that experience is the toughest teacher because it gives the test first and the lesson later. And so by us investing in the next generation, we can actually give them the lesson first, and then they take the test when they get experience so they know what to do. And so what Moses had been doing for 40 years is Joshua was Moses' aide. And Moses was consistently teaching Joshua, here's how to lead the Israelites. And in the Bible, there's one particular part, I should have looked it up, but I didn't. It may have been in Exodus, it was probably in Numbers, is that every time when Moses would leave the presence of God at the tabernacle, Joshua would stay in the shadow of the tabernacle. And as the sun changed and the shadow would move, Joshua would stay in that shadow, continuing to pray. And so Joshua was the greatest choice to take over the Israelites because he was Moses' right-hand man throughout the entire time, and he was completely and devoted to God. Also, Joshua was one of the only of the 12 tribes who said we can take the promised land. So here we are 40 years later, and we're getting Moses' last words and him saying, look, Joshua, let him have courage, let him be brave. He is going to take it. But how can he be brave? How can he be courageous? Because Joshua has watched God work through Moses over and over and over again. And now Moses is saying, Joshua, it's your turn. And so my question to you is, whose turn is it? Are you investing in someone? Is it time for you to take a step back? Is it time for someone else to take a step forward? Are you investing in someone so that when that time does come, that they are ready to step up and take the lead and lead better than you ever did, and even maybe even accomplish something that you set out to accomplish but were never actually able to do? Because that's what Joshua did for Moses. So that's today's good word from God's words. Pastor is continuing on a series on Insta-family. Tomorrow, I want you to join us. I hope it's going to be a great one, talking about dealing with our emotions, and it's going to be a great time. So I hope you invite a friend, and we're looking forward to what's coming up soon. So you can read all about that at www.churchofhope.com. And I hope you're doing well, and we'll see you back here next week.